Welcome to Healings and Meditations with Frank Jordan and the Earth Mind Think Tank Group. We take requests for healings in the second hour. You can call in on 702-879-4770 or on Skype wolfspirit.switchboard1. If you simply wish to make a healing request, please type into the chat room on wolfspiritradio.com with the name of the person, the location, and the condition of the person needs healing. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. July 13th, 2014. Good evening. Welcome to Healings and Meditations with the Earth Mind Think Tank Group, focalized by Frank Jordan. Hi, Frank. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. Well, it's good to be back again. I've missed several sessions here for personal reasons, but that's all behind me and out of the way for now, and we'll move right along on our path. And that path is always a guidance, being guided toward enlightenment. And one of our tasks of understanding is to really appreciate what enlightenment is. And I've discovered over the years, going through many successive periods of enlightenment, that every expansion of consciousness, every revelation, every new thought, ideal, and concept that you allow to come into your head, into your mind, into your consciousness is enlightenment. You're a little more enlightened than you were before. And it's a steady progressive growth, step by step by step, of learning as you go, and that's what it's all about, is to make us earn what we learn and to utilize it. Because information that's not utilized just becomes useless knowledge. And so no matter what philosophy you are or what your modality is, what you teach, what you do, the more you practice what you preach, the better you'll get at it. And that really pertains to the psychic abilities, especially. If you do develop a skill or an understanding of how something works, you have to use it. And that's why people who are doing healing work or psychic work seem to expand their consciousness faster than others, is because they're reaching and asking and desiring understanding and enlightenment. And it comes. Only comes when you require it or need it. And it comes best when you are in need. And when you have an actual application for whatever you're being shown. I know myself in learning the healing tools, every time a new situation would come, rather than try to reach back into my mind and remember what I'd encountered before in a similar situation, I learned very quickly to not do that. Because if you're pulling it out of your own mind or something you heard from someone else, it may be behind the times or not even appropriate for the person you're working with. But by just simply stepping back and asking, listening, I always, if I preach anything, it's listen, listen, listen. And in the listening, the intuitive flow would come through and I know exactly what to do. And that has come to a great fruition in the last few years here. I don't really push myself out there anymore to learn anything. It comes as I need it. And to reach out and try to download unapplicable information that I can't use, I see no point in it. If we have this inner knowing that when we need it, all we have to do is ask for it, it'll be there. Yeah, it's good to get a good foundation in the psychic skills and metaphysics and physics. I'm really embedded in physics because everything we do in the metaphysical world is simply an extension of the physical world. And when we go beyond that, into the realization that the metaphysics, beyond physics is what that means, is the subtle energy system that holds everything in form. And through interrelating through the subtle energy field, here's where we learn how to work directly in the physical plane, is because the subtle field supports that physical plane. And we were just talking just before the show started. One of our meditators was talking about finding ley lines and water lines and things of that nature. And that was my first grounding or understanding of Earth energies, was working with dowsers, learning how Earth energies worked. And it's a pretty simple thing to learn. And it's not complicated to apply. But here again, you have to be energy sensitive to the degree that your brain will pick up and understand the reactions you're getting through your dowsing tool, which is simply your subconscious mind communicating with you after you ask the question and where the water line is or whatever. So let's open it up to the group for a while here to discuss Earth energies and ley lines and dowsing and things of that nature. And does anyone have any questions?
Well, I'll bring up why the subject came up for me was that I'm looking for a place on my property where I'll have two positive ley lines crossing for a device that I'm going to use. And I was asking Frank because I had found an underground water line running on the property. Someone had told me that if I wanted to work with some of the negativity, clearing some of the negativity on the property, I might look to see if there's places where there were negative lines crossing. Mm-hmm. And when they mentioned that to me, they said, well, just look for an area where you'll find water running through. Do you have a well? And I said, no, I'm on city water, so I know where the pipes come through, but I'm talking about the back of the house. There's no lines back there. And he said, no, you'll probably find some water. It might be very deep. And so I went out there with the pendulum, and I actually did find out that there was a line running through that subsequently started oozing water in one spot to the surface, and there was a broken pipe. There had been a pipe under there. Mm-hmm. So I was asking Frank if that was the association with negative ley lines, and then we got into a discussion about positive and negative ley lines and the Hartman-Curry, and I just find it very fascinating, not just for finding water, but for working on redirecting energy so that you're not sleeping on a spot where where there's negative energy coming up under your house, because it can disrupt your sleep and your health.
Okay, first of all, I want to dispel some myths about dowsing and ley lines and water and things of that nature. In the first place, most water underneath most cities and areas, because cities are primarily built on playas or alluvial deposits, and then of course these become an excellent reservoir for water underneath the crust of the earth, the deeper rock veins, or rock ledges and whatnot, hold the water up into these gravel beds and whatnot. That water does not move. If it moves, it's very little, and it usually moves in response to being pumped somewhere. And wherever the bedrock is, the water moves along that in response to water being pulled out. And the only case that would be different from that would be in areas where there are deep limestone caves and things like that draw water down and take it out. So this is the first thing you need to discern concerning running water. People always say running water causes a problem. Well, that's probably quite possibly true in mountainous areas or where there are active fault lines close to the surface. The water in those cases runs through the fault lines and erodes out and creates stream beds and flows and things of that nature. But primarily, the water that pools underneath your houses and whatnot is pooling with Earthmind. And that is, of course, the Akashic Records. Earthmind is a silicon dioxide that is held in the surface of the earth. And it's really strong in the cases of gravel and sand, which have a high silicon dioxide content. So negative energy, anything that's created on the surface, is stored directly down underneath the dwelling or the area wherever stress occurs, or any experience, because it holds everything, absolutely. But if there's an overabundance of stress energy, detrimental things that could be, the Devic forces of conscious could deliver back up through you as subtle energy and in the instinctive consciousness flows, if there's a negative programming, it can store in the water, because water does store energy. And so what I've discovered is that in order to clear those energies, don't worry too much about the Hartman grid in that case, but look, instead of the water flowing, look at the grids of energy, electromagnetic energy that circulate, because there are different places where electromagnetic energy in the surface carries through that silicon dioxide surface and is pulled down into the earth to be recycled through the earth, through the poles, and back through the poles again. And what it's recycling is the energy from the sun that is a positive energy when it comes in. All life, all living things, everything having DNA relies on water and the sun. Only a few life forms, microbial forms and whatnot, can get along without some source of light to create the very essential hormones and things that their systems have to function and enjoy life. So those, what I call positive energy flows, life force flows, come in through a channel into an area, circulate around and distribute out through the life forms there. And then as they've utilized and released that, because it's standing waves of energy, they can't hold it in themselves, or they just build up and explode, because the energy only is in form for a millisecond, not even that much, in a standing wave, and then it collapses, and the energy contained within that wave dissipates, then reforms again in the next wave. So as energy is coming in, it's used, and what is not translated into form in the form of food or nurturing or to sustain a life form, that energy is released and it cycles back through the earth energy in a negative polarity, because energy always travels from the positive to the negative. And so the unused energy travels from all directions around to a place that I call a negative vortex, where these energies return back into the earth. Well, they're picking up the negativity from all over the neighborhood that's being released or being expressed by people, is carried inward toward that negative vortex and then back down into the earth for recycling. Now, in the case of where someone is living on one of those negative vortexes, very close to them, they can be susceptible to everything in the neighborhood that is negative. Rachel has a friend that had that experience, and I was able to douse the place where she lived, and we tried to move that negative vortex right out of her house because her family was having a terrible time. And they felt better for a while, and then the thing came back in, settled in the same place. So I recommended that they move, and they did. Rachel, can you do you know how they're doing now?
Well, they're in the process of moving to their new house, so it's kind of crazy for them right now. But they got out of that energy, so I'm grateful they've moved.
Yeah. So
she went through so much at that old house. It was one thing after another. It was crazy.
Well, they were drawing things from the whole area around there and right down through them, and being programmed to it. So. And
it really affected her health.
Mm-hmm. And her children.
Yeah.
So that's one understanding about water flows and underground water flows and things like that, is understand what you got down there, because most of the time it is not flowing water. It's water that's just sitting there, maybe holding the form of a negative experience or pattern that could have occurred in that neighborhood in the past that is still resonating as instinctive consciousness back up through the Devic forces of consciousness, the subtle energy system, as instinctive consciousness into your system, and you can react to it. I know some. Yes.
You were saying that in, say, the wave starts out positive, and then when it crashes, if it's not used to perform or anything, it goes into negative, because things from positive go negative. But is there an overabundance then of negative energy, or how does it dissipate?
It all is a wonderful managed system by nature. Nature maintains the balance. When something gets out of balance, an overabundance of one or the other, like an overabundance of positive life force coming in to an area, can cause high pressure, a high pressure buildup in the weather system. And that high pressure results in a dome of energy that holds moisture out. And so in order to break that dome down and get the weather rotation moving back in its natural cycles, you do just what we do when we're working at the weather patterns. We go out into the ocean and build up a strong power, a force of low pressure out there, and move it into that, and the low pressure actually sucks in the high pressure apart and pulls it into it, neutralizes it. And then the low pressure dome will weaken and move on, because it's not a strong, powerful force just sitting there and blocking everything. So that's what we do when we move the weather patterns, and it works the same way in a little localized area. Generally, when the wind comes through and moves the weather patterns, that movement of air is creating a shift of the polarity consciousness within that area. You know how right after a thunderstorm you go out and feel incredibly high and energized? That's because of the shift in the what is the you know what I'm talking about, the
ozone?
Yeah, the ozone. More ozone is empowering to you. Too much can be detrimental to you. And when there's a place where the ozone is broken down and weakened by chemicals, like on the South Pole, it upsets the entire cycle of nature in that region. Because ozone has to do with an actual positive polarity of the weather patterns. So it's a fascinating study, and this just kind of relates to how everything works together. Everything in the cycles of nature work together. But when you learn how to do the dowsing and trust your dowsing, then you can determine beyond the myths of dowsing to the facts of how it works and how you're being affected by Earth energies. A fault line, for one thing, can cause a lot of problem, because the water running through the fault line is attracting and generating just through the movement of the water, just like the movement of the air on the surface creates a negative. The water is through a fault line is what is dangerous. If that goes right under a house. I've doused houses where there's a lot of illness in one room, and anybody who slept in that room would get sick. And we were able to determine that underneath that particular flow was a fault line. Fault lines aren't necessarily very wide. They can just be cracks in the earth, but the water moving through them can generate negative polarities. Any other questions?
Well, I know that there are some physical things that you can see that can show you what's going on under the earth. If you have, if you're in an area where there's concrete or sometimes asphalt, and you see a random crack where even though the ground is level, you can discover that actually you'll find a ley line under that. And also sometimes if you look at trees, you'll sometimes see them leaning way over to one side, like they're trying to get away from something. And then if you look, you can actually see there, in fact, you'll see a ley line as well. So there are some nice things out in nature that that say, "Yoo-hoo, I'm here,"
and
you can.
Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
The tree thing, I think I noticed that one time that I had 3 trees on a property that out of all of the other trees, those had some like almost weird like cancerous growths. They just had these really weird anomalies. And I was wondering why those 3, and I started noticing that they kind of lined up if you looked at it from a certain way. And when my friend came over, she pointed that out, and she said, "Look, they're all on a ley line. There's probably a negative ley line there that's affecting them." Because up above, I noticed that too, that they were branching out to one direction.
Well, the function of a negative ley line is to draw and pull life force out of things, because by pulling the negative polarity away from it, the positive polarity can no longer function to create life. And so its job is to recycle energy, and this is why trees lose their leaves in the fall. It's why everything cycles out and dies, is because the very elemental system within you, in your DNA, acts to do that also. When you lose the DNA patterning program, positive energy abundance, and you start going a negative polarity, the life force is flowing out of you, and you go into the death process. And that's exactly what these people are doing that are sleeping in beds or in an easy chair over a negative line and a negative flow of energy. This is electromagnetic energy in the Hartman-Curry grid. And what's really important is they have to be there. Positive, negative, and then the north-south, positive, negative, and a very well-organized grid. And the more life force there is in an area, there'll be more of those lines functioning. When you get out into a desert or something, they might be 50 feet apart. Now, I've tested this out and to come to that conclusion. The problem is, it isn't where the fact that they're positive, negative, it's whether you're sitting or sleeping right over one of the negatives that's pulling life force out to keep the balance. Your system can probably handle one of those. But like in the Curry grid, the east-west grid, you might be sleeping over a negative Curry line that runs east and west, and it's not bothering too much. It's taking your used life force out that you want to get rid of and pass on, and replace it with positive energy while you sleep. That's the purpose of sleep, is to revitalize the cells and recharge everything up so life force can continue. But if you happen to be in a place where a north-south negative flow crosses that east-west negative flow, you've got a double negative there. And so the positive life force doesn't have an opportunity to replenish or stay in balance. It overwhelms it, and that's where people get sick. I go into people's houses and douse those lines, and wherever we see one of those double negatives, I make sure they don't have a bed there, or an easy chair, or even a place where a children's bassinet's there. If you've got a kid that's just constantly sick and unhealthy and can't grow, douse to see if there's a double negative sucking life force out of him. Because they require extra for positive energy to grow with. So,
what do you mean by a north-south? Do you mean like there's a Curry and a Hartman?
Yeah.
And plus a north-south?
No, the north-south is the Hartman. The east-west is the Curry.
Okay.
And so that's just because that's the names of the people who discovered this. Mm-hmm. But I think I may have originated the realization where you have a double negative is where the problem comes in these electromagnetic forces that carry our life force that we are a part of, that sustain us. I've not seen it anywhere else other than in my writings. I know that.
I'm not clear.
Well, a dowser here in town was telling me about the other grid. He says that there's another grid where the lines run diagonal to standard lines. So
That's
they'll
the
run
Curry grid, as far as I know.
Yeah, they don't run north-south. They run, northwest down to southeast.
Yeah, that's right. They are not right on our magnetic north. They are off at an angle. So don't let that throw you too. Yeah.
Frank, did you ever meet a guy called Alf Riggs from the British Society of Dowsers?
No.
All right, because this is the guy that I met, and this is where I learned all this same stuff. And he doused our house, and he showed me this thing, and somehow I'm able to douse, like I'm a natural dowser, and I tuned into him, and I started doing it, and I figured, I can see it myself, and find these things myself. And I do find that there's a triple banded and a double banded. So one of them has an up down up, or a down up down, and the other one has an up and a down. And that the Hartmann lines go north, south, and east and west, and that the Curry lines are wider spaced, but they go northeast, southwest in a diagonal form. And where I'm actually sitting on the join of two two Hartmann lines, but that's just, I can't do anything about that. But I've got lots of geometric forms here to stabilize the energy. It works quite well here.
Well, positive is a very healthy place to be, because you get all the life force energy you can use out of the sun and coming into the grid and distributing around. But just be aware of where those double negatives are.
Okay, so Frank, other than moving the location of your bed or your recliner or whatever, your computer area, what can you tell us? Different things that you would do I know that I've used crystals and stones outside of the house to redirect energies, but what do you suggest with people?
Well, that's probably the best thing to do, or drive a stake in the ground. And what you're driving into the ground when you drive an iron stake in the ground, you're driving your intent, and that iron is a crystalline consciousness too. Iron is in a crystal grid within itself. So when you're driving it in with your intent, the force of driving that in is implanting your intent in that ley line, and if you're intending for it to move over 5 feet or 10 feet, it will. It'll move out, and you can measure the difference within the house. However, I no longer block them entirely anymore, because what I do is drive through with the intent of weakening the force of those double lines and where they cross, so that they're not acting detrimentally.
I met a dowser who actually he'd take little 1-inch pieces of copper wire, and he'd make little spirals and place them on lines to distort the line or to cause it to just bend.
Well, that's what I do is drive one right in the line and then take two out a couple of feet away from it. And the intent is to widen that negative band out. And that works real well, too. You can do that with stones.
I was able to use my implosion coils because I found in the house 2 spots where 2 negative lines crossed, and it turns out to be places where we frequent. And I did the experiment, and where one negative line comes into the house, right on the line, I put one of the implosion coils, and then using the pendulum, I doused the polarity before reaching the coil and after the coil, and it went from negative to positive. And I checked the far side of the house where the line was coming out, and it was coming out as a positive polarity. And the same thing happened with the other one. So it was able to turn those 2 double negative spots into double positive spots. I don't know if further down the line it'll revert back to its natural polarity, but at least where it's concerned, it's not going to be detrimental.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very good. One thing we want to remember is this life force system is part of our life force system also. And that's why it was our intent, our God-given intelligence and reasoning power plus our energy generating polarity and working directly as the force of consciousness holds everything form, we can request or demand that things happen, and it does. That's why these things work. But first, the first step is learning how to discern what you're working with, and not being drawn into old myths that all houses have running water beneath them, because most of them don't. There's very few that do, and they'll be in a mountain situation where there's an acting fault line that you might be sitting on.
It was interesting that when you spoke of the water going through a fault line and what it does, you sounded very much like my naturopathic doctor back in New York when he did acupuncture and electroacupuncture, and he would often comment, because he had been trained as a surgeon back in Argentina, so he knew a lot about the nervous system, and he criticized how many traditional doctors, where they would make their incisions, like for example an appendix or appendicitis or a hernia or something, he says they make the incision right across the acupuncture line, and they interrupt the flow of the lines. So he says, when I find such and such a particular problem in a person and I examine them, lo and behold, there's an operation scar right there.
You bet. See, that's the subtle energy system. Mm-hmm. That's the subtle energy system that sustains the physical system. And if you screw with that, then it has a direct effect on the physical system.
One of my dowsing teachers was mentioning also, whenever you're dowsing, be sure not to be standing at the cross point of two ley lines, because it can absolutely distort your answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know. When I first was introduced to dowsing, it was by an old Texan, and we were looking for gold and silver properties, and he taught me how to do map dowsing. But he had the preconception, because somebody had told him this was true, that you cannot dowse a map that has red ink on it. If there's anything red on there, it won't work. Well, I looked at that, and even though I was a novice, I said, that's stupid. So I just went ahead and dowsed it and got good answers. He couldn't do it. See, I'm talking about how your mental construct is, your belief system, what you've been taught, and the need to not follow a lot of the old myths, but intuitively go inside, ask your question, ask your dowser, communicate with your subconscious, which knows the right answers, and come up with your own solutions rather than depend on what somebody else has erroneously programmed you into.
Good point.
That's a very good point about limits, because you think, well, what can't I find out? And there is nothing that you can't find out. You can ask a question about anything. The universe will tell you, won't it?
Right.
So, Frank, it's very interesting that, as I come into the conversation this evening, you've already started it, and you're talking about exactly what I was talking about with my girlfriend this afternoon. She's a painter and decorator at times, and we were talking with the owner of the house that she decorated recently, and she was saying that there's this weird energy in this one room in her house that she doesn't like to go into. So I kind of remotely addressed it, and in the same way that we addressed these healing subjects, and it seemed that there was an underground stream plus ley line energy that was moving in the room, and it was kind of mixing together. And somehow I said, all right, okay, so you want something, a water feature on one side of the room and a copper feature on the other, a metallic thing on the other, and that will draw the two lines separate so that there's not this mixing anymore. And she had all the right things. She had the things in her house with which to do that. But I suppose what we're talking about is feng shui, or whatever you call it. in that we're what Walter's doing and what he's talking about by redirecting the energy lines. This is what Feng Shui is.
That's it. That's Feng Shui. That's it. Just understanding, what does Feng Shui mean? Those of you who practice that, I think it just means energy awareness, doesn't it?
Wind and water.
Yeah, there you go. Positive and negative. How to work with it. Well, I'd like to bring up another subject that's just hit me since I've been home again from Denver. I've had two clients, mothers and daughters. Well, one mother and daughter, and as I went into them and studied their situation, one mother and daughter was tremendously environmentally sensitive. They're both virtually housebound because if they get out of the house, they're just attacked by everything out there. And I've encountered a lot of other people with this same syndrome too. And I've learned more and more and more about it. But this is the first time I encountered it in a mother and daughter this way. So the mother had called me and asked me to work with the daughter so she could get on in school. And she's an incredibly wonderful artist, the most beautiful artist I've ever encountered. And but she was horribly blocked and being attacked by entities, intrusion, and invasion at night, right up to the physical attack. And so the mother was concerned about her. Well, as soon as I opened up to the daughter, I asked the mother what her situation was. Was she environmentally sensitive also? And it turns out she was, because she'd had an accident before the daughter was born that was a near-death experience. Had just busted her all up and brought her low self up so strongly for survival that when she got pregnant, that low self was still up there and in survival, and it created environmental sensitivity in the girl. And so, working with them together, side by side, I was able to deprogram the mother and go back in time, bring her through without that environmental sensitivity, without the accident. And lo and behold, the girl immediately began to clear also. And I just got a report today on them that they're doing very well. So this is a case where subtle energy linkage between people can occur, because it's genetic sensitivity programmed through the low self to stimulate fear of the environment, and once the fear is programmed in there, it passes right along through the subtle energy system, through the essences of consciousness, into the next generation. And I don't think I've ever seen it so vividly displayed as that. By working on the one, I was able to clear the other. And more importantly, I taught them how to keep themselves clear and how to understand when one is affecting the other. So we had that one, and then I went right from that to another one, a lady who called who has Hodgkin's disease. And she had, she's 37, and she had Hodgkin's when she was 17. A big tumor developed right in her chest. And but because of the experience I just had with the other parent, I asked her if her mother had ever demonstrated any cancer symptoms. She said, yeah, mother had Hodgkin's just prior to me getting it. Bungo, right there, big connection. So we went back in time and cleared mother, who was apparently had been healed of it. And the daughter was healed with radiation and chemotherapy and things like that at the same time. And then they both come forward 20 years, and suddenly the daughter starts developing the Hodgkin's disease again. And so I asked, what's happening with your mother? And she said, well, she has Lyme's disease, which is a immune system problem. And right there in that area in the chest where they developed their lymphoma. So this rang the bell again. My God, what a lesson to have 2 in a row like this. So I went to the mother, long distance, and cleared her of the causative factors that had triggered the what they thought was Lyme disease, but really is a symptom of Hodgkinson. Cleared her of that, and then I'm waiting to see the results of that, the effect on the daughter, because I brought them both through. Again, we went back in time, brought them both through without the negativity that created the first instance, and the second. So I thought this was fascinating. I just had to report it to you that when you do any healing work with anyone, look and see what's happening in the rest of the family, what similar things may be trading around and interactive. And just a thought about this. You know how breast cancer has become so popular in the last few years, 10 years or so, and at the turn of the century, maybe 1 woman in 100 would get breast cancer, usually from a bruise or something. And now it's programmed into the consciousness that 1 woman in 5 will die with breast cancer, or at least will come down with it. Now, I think the incidence is even higher than that now. And so what do you guys think of that? What I call this is the subtle energy carriers of disease. You've heard me speak of it before, how arthritis can be passed from one person to another. Do you remember your grandparents and maybe even older people are reading about it in the history books, people who suffered from lumbago? And that was one of the words, and there were several things they called it. I can't recall them right now, but it had to do with energetic things that would affect their limbs and their systems. And I lay you odds that what perhaps instigated those symptoms in them was sleeping over double lay lines, or one getting it from overwork or stressing their joints, creating actual physiological propagation of a problem, and then the person sleeping next to them picking it up just through resonance, the essence of it. And that also brings up the realization that every time something like that becomes patterned into earth mind, and enough people begin to pull that together or pass it around, program it into earth mind, it creates a morphogenic field of that illness. And if someone puts fear in you of that illness, it's quite possible to trigger it if that happens to be a propensity that's in your family line, genetically or otherwise. Any ideas on that?
Just today, I was chatting with a friend who I'm teaching about clearing, and she was telling me that she got someone gave her some clothes, used clothes. A friend had, I don't know, outgrown them or whatever, and passed them on to her. And so this one garment she had put on, and suddenly her left eye was becoming very irritated and started to swell. And so she said to me today, she said, "Teresa, thank you so very much for teaching me about clearing. I put on this garment, my eye was swelling up, and I went, hey, wait a minute." And she phoned her friend and asked her which of her eyes was a problem, and she said, indeed, it was her left eye. Even though she did not, she washed the clothes and put it on, there was that energetic, that subtle energy still in the garment. Mm-hmm. And so she immediately cleared the garment, she cleared herself and cleared the garment and all the memories that were attached to that. She sent it off through a torus and then into the golden grid. And she said it was almost immediate. Her eye was starting to calm down.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Organic material in clothing and things like that, or in your chair, or anything that has organic material woven into it, holds psychometric energy, life force energy, the patterns of whatever we experience. That's why when you lay back down in your own personal lounger, all padded up, it feels so natural and wonderful to you instantaneously, because it's resonating your own resonance right back into you. You lay down in somebody else's, and it's like things start crawling up through your system. It would have to be programmed by somebody's negative. I know when I go to a motel, and the first thing I do when I walk in the room is clear the room, particularly the beds, of any negative energy. Sponge rubber is wonderful. Like the new pads they put on these beds, it really holds energy. Well, I can't tell you much more about that, except this is creating your reality instead of being subjected to it. You want a nice, beautiful reality? Make sure you're not picking up somebody else's crap that they've deposited around.
That's what makes us the creators of this reality. That's what it's all about.
That's true. And that's what we're working towards in creating the fourth reality, is understanding what doesn't work in the third reality, the third dimension. And as we move into the fourth, we get to create it without this stuff, by understanding how it works and manifesting the new reality. And if we choose to take our bodies with us into that dimension, then we'll be we should be programming it ahead of us before we even get there. And that's what we're attempting to do with this group and Earth Mind and Wolf Spirit Radio and everything else out there, is to understand and learn how to be manifestors of a dimensional reality.
Very true. It makes me think of children, say like if they're running out the door to go play with their friends, they know they're going to have a good time, and that's what they're creating as they go, a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And you speaking of these morphogenic fields of the disease and illnesses, I would love to see us releasing a lot of that energy like we do on the earthquake grids, where when people, it's just not there as much. It's just the energies has been released, and so their thought forms go to more positive things.
We have done that in certain things like arthritis, and when we get an opportunity to work with them, we reach right on out into the group mind consciousness that's sustaining that illness, and also things like Lyme's disease, where the consciousness of the organism is a group mind consciousness, that even though it spreads around, it still maintains its psychic attenuation. It's all one organism, but it's spread out and differentiated in different pieces, living creatures all over, and as it spreads around, have you noticed how Lyme's disease has gotten to be so big in the last few years, where it never used to exist at all? Well, when we do work on a case of Lyme's, I try to remember to reach out and clear the group mind consciousness of it, and clear it out of the rodents and things also.
So is there an enormous tick behind the whole Lyme's disease thing? You know what I'm saying?
I have a client I'd like to share information with you about. I've been working on him a little bit, and he used to work at UCLA Medical Facility, and he did research on Lyme's disease and where it came from. Now, this is his story. I don't know. He said it was bioengineered by the Germans during World War II as a virus that continually manifested different symptoms so that it could not be treated. And then after World War II, it was introduced as somehow on the East Coast in a limited area. They wanted to test the population, and it's gone up and down the East Coast. Now, when I went in to work on this guy, what I found was I went into the DNA of the virus, and it was completely negative polarity. So when it was in the body, it was throwing the cells off so bad that the white cells were not allowed to even compete against this virus. So what I did is I introduced positive polarity into it and sustained it, and the guy started to get a little bit better, and then he took off, went back east someplace. I haven't seen him, but what are your thoughts on that idea?
Well, remember, one way we work on these communicable flus and things like that is we go into their morphogenic field and we pull the life force away from them, so that as they multiply, they don't have enough energy to reproduce themselves, and so they just die out eventually by taking the sustaining life force away from them, and it seems to work. And you can do the same thing with the Lyme's disease.
Are we allowed to create a thought form, life form that would feed on those things? The same way, like, for example, one perfect example, when I was a kid in the 60s in Argentina, all the trees in the city were being afflicted, but by something they called basket worms. These little worms that they hang from the trees through a thread, and they go up and down the thread all day, and they eat the leaves, and there were so many it was impossible to fumigate the entire city. So some engineer introduced this little black wasp from the northern terrains of Argentina, and this wasp would lay its egg in the little baskets that these worms make, and the larva would kill the worms. So in a couple of years' times, they cleared the entire city. And the wasps don't attack anybody; they just live their normal wasp lives. And I was wondering, since nature is so balanced, having certain life forms feeding on other life forms and actually helping without the need for chemistry or any other thing, I mean, doesn't that follow in the subtle universe? If we have, we can devise a thought form, life form that would just go out and feed on these negative things.
Well, out in nature, there would have been some sparrows or the wasps that would have kept them under control anyway. It was just in a city where they didn't have the natural controlling organisms. Something like that could get out of balance and become a pest. Otherwise, they're not a pest at all. That's why when I work with an invasive organism of some kind, I ask it simply to pull back and weaken down, so we're not wiping it out, we're not destroying the thing. It is a God-force creation, but I ask it to back its energy down to where it is not being detrimental to the host and won't pass around to other hosts, and it seems to work. That's working at holding the things at the level where they're not detrimental and in a natural existence and cycles. I don't hold to that with really, really, really horrible, destructive, detrimental things that could kill a lot of people, though. Because that kind of attack, I think we need to eliminate that, like polio was eliminated. I see no beneficial use for polio whatsoever.
Well, just as you were saying that somebody was saying that the Lyme disease was man-created, so it's not really a natural organism.
All right. In that case, if it's not natural, it's not beneficial in the environment in any way. Absolutely, clear it out, kill it out, get rid of it.
Also, out on the web, I found many years ago there's a website called Immunix.org. And it's a group of people that they do this energy practice using muscle testing and will and intention, and they literally program their immune system to address anything that they need addressing. So instead of, because you're aware, I mean everyone is aware of certain pathogens and illness where the immune system is unable to do anything about it. Well, to these people, it's a nothing to go in there and program their immune system to address what needs addressing. And it's very much along the lines of what you're saying, manage your reality, don't be subjected to it.
And that's the purpose of Wolf Spirit Radio, is to make people aware, even on an individual basis. If they control their reality, it's affecting every other reality around them. And that's creating a life force that's superior and more beneficial to life force, which is one of the elements of life anyway, is continual evolution and growth of consciousness. Then it will continue to spread out spontaneously without you having to do anything about it, without the individuals even knowing that it's happening. But it takes somebody to hold the base program, like we do in Wolf Spirit Radio through all of our members. Once it's patterned into, you become a resonator of that consciousness. Questions?
This reminds me of something I just read today. Metaphysics is just a higher form of magic is a higher form of metaphysics. So in a way, what we're doing in some eyes is very magical in a sense. Not whimsical, but magical. It's very real.
Absolutely.
Break time?
Break time.
Welcome back to Healings and Meditations with the Earthmind Think Tank Group, featuring Frank Jordan.
Yes, this is the portion of the program where we actually apply our theories and our abilities and help to raise everyone's consciousness by demonstrating that we're not just words. We do what we say we can do, and it has an effect out in the ether, so to speak, the subtle energy fields of the world, to the degree that people are willing and allowing and acceptable, receptive to what we produce, which is energy directed through the desired will, through the subtle energy field, directly to affect a problem and bring about healing, order, clearing, whatever else is required. Anything that can be done locally within the hand's length of yourself can be done at any distance simply by extending yourself through that non-space, which we perceive to be space or distance, and recognizing that in the subtle energy field there is no differentiation between us. We're all as close as our outstretched hands. Any comments on that?
In the quantum universe, there is no such thing as time and space.
Exactly.
It's a social agreement, namely time.
All right. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed on to the healing work? And do we have anyone volunteering to be healed tonight?
I have one here from the chat room. Let me just see if there's any. Oh, there's more. Okay. Welcome back, Norm. Norm normally comes in at just after this show, just after my show. So here we go. Melva, who is 70 years, who lives in Liberty, Missouri. She needs assistance with her left knee and 2 left toes. Oh, I wonder which left toes they are. Presumably the little ones, because it's the nerve. I assisted Mel in the evening of July the 4th and suggested the technique of the counterclockwise green method and then the clockwise white energy. And thank you for the added assistance and confirmation of the energies within Mel's left knee and toes. Wow. Very specific. Okay. You get all that? You get all that, Frank?
Well, I think so. You say this is Norm? Isn't that Truth Sovereign or whatever his name is?
Whatever. Free Sovereign.
Yeah,
Norman.
All right. Norm, I know you're listening now. You've listened to us enough and participated in enough shows. I'd like to see you come into your personal power and begin to direct your energy and to do many of the requests. And certainly we'll put our force of consciousness with you and behind you to help empower you. So Norm, will you please take your point of attention to the person of your request and feel, coming from us now, a flow of what I call a galactic energy. It passes through the back of our heads and down out our hands and through our bodies where we add our intent to it and direct it to any purpose that we desire. We're directing this energy to you now, Norm. You, in turn, assimilate this energy, come into the flow and direct it to your person. You know what the situation is. You have the desire, the will, and the intent. And we have the energy, which we're giving freely and lovingly to you with unconditional love. So go ahead and work on your person now, Norm. And in the process, become a healer, although I personally know you already are. And we thank you for your request because it gives us another extended opportunity to work outside of ourselves in the extended consciousness to spread our knowledge and our ability around. Wow, good work, Norm. I feel that need changing right now. And just run that energy right on down the left leg to the left toes. And what I see is the green swirling counterclockwise energy that is the female polarity coming up from Earth Mind that holds all physical things in form, being directed by the white counter-rotating clockwise energy surrounding it that is the desire and will and intent and polarity of the positive oversoul energy. It kind of puts a cast around the green flowing manifesting energy, and that holds the form of perfection we're broadcasting into it. All right, now we allow that to continue to express, and you hold it, Norm, until you feel satisfied that it's done. And usually what I notice is the energy quits flowing when something's completed. Okay, let's go to Diane's healing request. Friend of a friend, adopted a child with autism, had some traumatic head injury as well. Teenager acting out and very angry. It's affecting Father Steve, Mother Violet, and Sister Jenny, Northridge, California. So we direct our attention to Diane, to these people. Now again, Diane, you can feel our energy surrounding you, and you know these people, so direct through your intuitive knowledge and your healing ability what you want to have happen, and we'll empower you to do it.
Well, I'd probably first request that whoever would like maybe to check to see if there's any entities or anything the city's carrying that's affecting the emotionals.
Did you do that?
No, I'm holding my crystals now. Okay, so...
Usually in the cases of autistic children and people who are not fully in their personal power, there will be entity invasion, and there definitely is in this case. So go ahead and clear the entities first.
Okay. So I'm creating a toroidal vortex in front of him. And from behind, I'm just seeing myself just push through his energy fields and ask these entities to release him. They're not to be part of his life. They're not welcome. I'm pushing them through and pushing them back into the energy vortex to be recycled. So we can clear that affected in the lower chakras. And then to put in some beautiful green healing energy to take the place of the energy of those entities. So it feels better.
And project into his future developing stability as far as the autism is concerned, and the chemical balances being adjusted in his system.
Can we also work on the trauma that he suffered to the head? I don't know a lot about it. These are friends of friends, so I don't know them personally.
Okay.
But he had some injuries, so I'd like to try and clear that as well.
All right. To the power of the Christ within us, we see this young person in the perfect and normal condition. To the degree that he's capable of assimilating the energy and applying our desire and will, not to interfere with his life path, but to enhance his ability to come into his own and to manifest a workable, usable reality.
And to also send loving support to the family, that they can release some of this overwhelmment and see the parts of this relationship, this family that is working and that is loving, and the reasons for adopting this child that was so beautiful, that they're able to appreciate and enjoy each other.
Thank you, and close.
So it is.
Rachel has requested Arthur be given more healing energy, given sufficient energy in his physical body to stand up and move without tiredness or weakness. He thanks you so much for all your healing. It has helped so much. Well, we appreciate the response, and we will send energy to Arthur right now as he works through the finality of his situation through the power of the Christ within us. We wrap Arthur in a flow, an abundance of life force, and how interesting, we go into the negative vortexes around Arthur and block the full efficiency of their strength that's been pulling the life force out of him. That's interesting. Just what we were talking about. We got a chance to apply it. Now also, Rachel, Susan's friend who committed suicide, and in those cases there's always a shock and a trauma. Would you like to do the Book of the Dead for that person, and we'll empower you as you do that? You could even do a tone if you choose to help give him transition and clear his shock and trauma.
Okay, maybe with your help too, Frank, if I miss a piece or two. So what I'd like to do is call on the Book of the Dead and open up that vortex. And I call in the angels. And I ask that the shock and the trauma is cleared and released from Mike. And if there's any karma, that it is cleared and released. And this portal is open for you, Mike. It's of your choice to go in it. Oh, I feel him. The angels are there. And they're calling you home. And I'll do a tone. Do I do the tone before you close the vortex or do it during?
I'll do the clearing tone first.
Okay.
Perfect. Now you can close the vortex.
Okay. And now we close the vortex.
Oh, that was nice. Thank you.
Frank, is there anything in regarding to his low soul in any of the family members? Can you check for that?
All right. His name was Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely is. His low self did not transcend over. That was his high self he worked with. All right. They said in the family members. Name some of the family members if you can.
No, I'm not really clear. I just know Susan, who is Susan, who is a cousin. So they're his relatives that are very close. I do not know their names.
Okay, I've got sister for a candidate. Does he have a sister?
Frank, I do not know. I'm sorry.
And I also got mother. So it doesn't matter. We'll go to Mike's low self. Mike's low self. Whoever you transitioned into, instead of going into the morphogenic field of your afterlife, Mike's low self, please listen to us now. You must go into the light. You must release from your sister or your mother, perhaps both. I've learned that they can be in several at the same time. There we go. Thank you, Mike. Go into the light now. And we'll do the Book of the Dead for you there. Okay, very good. That cleared quite easily because he was just in a state of mass confusion. Didn't know what to do. Close. Okay, that's done. All right. Any more requests?
Okay, well, we've got here, Gabe Regano, London, Canada. He's experiencing cancer in several locations and is losing energy. May have death angel hanging around.
Okay. In the case of metastatic situation where it spreads through the body, the whole body is accepting this. His immune system's broke down.
I think we're back.
Say again?
I think we're back, Frank.
We're back?
At least you and I are.
Well, I don't think any of the rest of us are ever gone.
There's JP.
We're all here. We've been here.
We're all here. We have always been here.
All right, we're working on this person in Canada that has the cancer. The person requested that. We're directing through you the energy flow. We're asking the situation that is the creative cause for the need to have cancer and to, as a honorable way of committing suicide. We're asking that person we're talking directly to his high self now, to examine his point and purpose of life and why he's choosing to check out of it and why his immune system is broken down to allow this situation, the metastasizing of the cancer that cannot be fought well without the chemo or the radiation. We're asking you to recognize what lessons there are in this for you. And somehow I'm getting the realization it's an acceptance of life. To stop resisting life and the flows of life. To flow with life. Now, if that means transitioning, then if that's your choice, so be it. But we will have to stimulate your immune system now to bring you back into the pure and perfect form, to revitalize your entire system, and to clear from your chest those emotional, psychological blocks that are inhibiting your immune system and the T cells in your system that have broken down and not doing their job. We'll reestablish those through the power of the Christ within us. We'll pull this back into the pure and perfect condition. And you can maintain this by looking at your own self-realization and understanding yourself and the determination to go on with life and living and experiencing life and what the rewards are there for you as opposed to the rewards of passing into another dimension through the power of the Christ within us. We empower you as you make your choice and release, 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 release. Now we've got a lot of energy pouring into him. He should revitalize and come back. Okay, we have a request. Can we check Jack Cybulski? I'm not familiar with that. It must be something he did while I was gone.
This gentleman wrote to me. I don't know how to pronounce Polish names. I think Jacek Cybulski. He wrote to me saying that for 6 years now he's been suffering from evil spirits that came into his life promising to help him, and instead they made his life a living hell, and he wants to be free of his spirits. He gave his permission to contact his guides, but I have not been able to do a journey for him. I figured the group as a whole is much better qualified than me to see if any help can be given to him.
All right, I'll direct your attention to his low self and the fact that something opened the portal into the hell pit that these entities have been emerging from, and you, Walt, with your personal power and his, can direct those energies back down through the chakra system, out of their attack mode, back down through the root chakra, into earth mind, and down through that set of chakras beyond earth, the heart center of earth mind, and close those portals off. And I see it happening right now as we put our intent on it. They're moving down. They cannot stay here without our permission. And if we fear them, if they get into some kind of empowerment through fear or belief or guilt, that's what gives them their power. So clear that all off, take them back down in there and close that portal. Close the portal in the heart chakra of earth mind. There. Now when you feel the resistance stop, you'll know you've got it done. They're still resisting. Push them down through the power of the Christ within us. We do not give you permission to exist in Jack. We do not give you permission to exist in the earth plane or to support any kind of negative reality. Release now and go down into the light, and we pour the light behind you, in front of you, to take you back to your source, and close it off. And so it is. There, did you feel that movement, Walt?
Yeah, I have a question. If I start counting down from the earth chakra that's below the feet, which the fourth one would be the earth heart chakra?
Well, remember there's 12 in each octave. And so the heart center in our physical plane of consciousness here is between the 6th and the 7th. And so coming right on down to 12 at the bottom, which is actually below our feet, the portal you have to go through is in the root chakra, which would be like counting from the bottom up, would be like the second level. So, yeah.
So, because we have the chakra below the feet, which what we call the earth chakra.
Yeah.
So, below that earth chakra, how many to get to the earth heart chakra?
Since it's a different range of consciousness, it'd be the same thing.
Oh.
But 6 resonates with 6, which resonates with 6 in the oversoul. So, it's exactly the same.
So it would be 6 below that earth chakra.
Yeah.
You would find the earth heart chakra.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So, have we looked at Grace Knight? She's, I believe that says 10 years old, diagnosed with lung cancer, which is really unusual. She's in Texas. They cleared 70 entities from her today. Let's heal her to where there is no cancer when they go for surgery. Well, they're going to do it before they go for surgery.
Grace Knight in Texas. All right, let's direct our attention to that. Oh, I feel a great vacancy of energy here. There's just very little life force coming into this child and strengthening her to give her resistance to this supposed condition. So first of all, let's just bring from Oversoul an incredibly strong, powerful vortex of light spiraling down through her system, through her crown chakra, down into her heart center, then on down into the earth mind, where it stimulates the female polarity to rise, spiraling in the opposite direction, to come up all the way to heart center and Grace's heart center, and all the way up through the crown chakra to where there's one unified, natural, abundant source of life force energy for this poor child. Now this is activating the Kundalini energy, the life force coming up through the root chakra and rising on up through her system, as well as the light energy spiraling down through her system, and meeting in her heart chakra, where we help her to create. Actually, we need to clear the standing waves that hold the form of the illness of the condition, clear that backward in time, be manifesting the situation. All the way down into Earth Mind, clearing the causative factors from her family flow. And shift her attention back to the heart center, bring down positive life force again through the crown chakra, negative life force, the female power force, through the lower chakras, rising to the heart center, manifesting a new standing wave that does not experience the condition through the power of the Christ within us, in the grace of 0 point, through the power of the Christ within us, we see the standing wave of perfect, unconditional love resonating through her, clearing the condition, neutralizing the effect, and manifesting the pure and perfect condition into her future. To the degree that she doesn't have to be operated on, and whoever cleared the entities did exactly the right thing, because that feels wonderful. There's nothing impeding the flow of these energies, these healing energies now. So we bring the group mind power of everyone listening and everyone in the meditation group to heal, to bring this child to perfection, and to clear her karma or any other causative force that she may be acting out here in this lifetime. Good. I feel her shifting into the light now. And we see in her future as she matures into a beautiful young woman, sustaining life, positive reality. Perfect. So it is. Thank you, everyone who contributed to that one. That was important.
Okay, so there's a little bit of feedback from Free Sovereign here. Thank you, Frank, for confirming my healing abilities. 3 weeks back, I participated in a scientific measurement test of energy healers by a researcher from University of Arizona, Tucson, Arizona. And this researcher confirmed to me positive on 10 out of 13 measurements as a clairvoyant, also stating that mostly I was projecting the energy from the third eye. I need further development of my hands for healing, such as Reiki.
More than Reiki, you needed to learn to radiate these healing energies through your heart in the 0 point. That's where it works. That's where it's effective, is in changing the standing wave of the condition through your heart energy. You feel your hands getting hot and all of that, but it's the heart where it really happens. The hands are just like the energy generators that creates a standing wave of perfection, but your intent goes through your heart in the standing wave. Okay.
So he's also been examining the conditions of personal blockages, and just 2 days back he recognized some significant ramifications from a very drastic lie which had been told to me by my mother, by his mother. He's continuing to work on the personal energy. So that is one thing. This is what informs our dis-ease, isn't it, Frank? These little white lies that our mothers tell us, because we trust them.
As children, we're open and receptive before we're taught to distrust. And so anything that's downloaded into us becomes our reality in our subconscious mind and our functioning condition. And the low self, in any case, the subconscious mind, just accepts anything, whether it's a lie or the truth, even the most blatant lie, it accepts as being the truth, as long as the person who's projecting it projects it as the truth. And it just downloads it and it becomes part of their functioning reality in their hard disk. So it's incredibly important what we say to children and even to each other, because the inappropriate statements or directions of even our ideas or our convictions can have a devastating effect on others, and we don't even realize it, and the person that's receptive to it doesn't realize it, because it's all happening subconsciously and unconsciously.
So I'd like to share a little story about my twin nephews that visited me all last week. I was so excited that they were with me, and one of them asked me, what if I only had one wish, what would it be? And so I pondered it, and it was amazing, because a friend emailed me a beautiful little poem about the joy of childhood and the magic of being 12 years old and experiencing the world as though you were in that realm of everything is just so filled with energy that they recognize that energy, and it seems like magic. And it was the wish of that person in that poem that remain in the hearts of all children. And it was so beautiful that I recognized that, and I read that poem to them, that I hope that they see the magic that I still can see throughout their lives. And I am so grateful for this beautiful group to have shared their magic and to help maintain my magic or my perception of magic in the world. Yeah.
Love is a beautiful thing, and love is so magical, and that's all that it is, the magic of love.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're all still part of the party.
Magic, magic, magic.
Meanwhile, Marianne from Ontario, Canada. This is interesting. I was fascinated by what you said about mother-daughter relationships. I had toxemia during my first pregnancy with my daughter, and we became estranged when her father and I separated, divorced. Could you go back in time to heal this pregnancy in the hopes that my daughter may come back to me? Many thanks. Mary Ann
Yes.
from Ontario.
Mary Ann, just take yourself back in time, back into that toxemia state, and step back a little further in your pregnancy and feel the conditions in your body that created the toxemia. And we're going to do a healing on you there. Through the power of the Christ within us, we see you, perfect and normal, producing a beautiful and normal child. And that child being born and continuing its life out to fruition, fulfillment, carrying none of the conditions that created the toxemia, being totally free of that karmic burden, cleared and released. And there it is. They're creating a parallel reality where the condition doesn't exist. The subconscious of everyone involved acknowledges that. And so in the further lifetime, it may be the fact, but it isn't the truth. The truth will prevail. So it is. Okay, we have a healing request for Nikki for her perforated eardrums. Is this your Nikki?
Yeah, this is Wolf Baby Nikki, and she's she has been deaf for quite a long time after a rock concert. Blew her eardrums out basically. So she loses her hearing a lot lower than we do, regular folk. But so she can't hear anything at the moment. She's had a problem this weekend.
Is she listening to us?
Well, as far as she can. Yes, she is.
All right, Nikki, I'm standing behind you, and I have my palms over your ears now, left hand on left ear.
And there's
right
also
hand
the
on right
hum.
ear.
There's also the hum, Frank, about this constant sound that she keeps hearing that is actually making her tense and driving her mad.
All right. Nikki, we're taking you back in time. This is a personal karma that you've created by going to that concert and allowing yourself to be exposed to a detrimental force. We're going to take you back in time now, and back in this time space prior to the concert, I want you to very strongly and firmly make the choice to not go to that concert. Do it now. And we bring you through the time space without the condition occurring in your ears, and out beyond our present time space into the future, when the ears are healed, manifesting the perfect and normal condition. My hands are extremely hot, and you feel this pouring down into your head, reconstructing those eardrums, deadening the hum, neutralizing the causative factors of the hum. So through the power of the Christ within us, we see in the perfect and normal condition. Now as you go to sleep tonight, realize that your condition, go to sleep with the thought in the mind that you're back in time prior to that concert, and that when you wake up tomorrow, the concert does not exist. It never existed in your time frame and space, and your ears will be perfect. And so it is.
So it would be like the concert was the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it was a dream.
But it was attacking her through her subtle energy reality because she accepted it and allowed it.
Yes, but going back now, I'm talking from the logic brain part of your brain where you're going, but it happened. But if you tell your brain, which will believe whatever you tell it, that it was just an illusion, the concert was an illusion, and it was just a dream.
Yeah, it never happened.
Yeah.
Okay, give us a report on that one, JP.
Sure, I will. Let's see what happens when she wakes up in the morning.
Exactly.
Wake up in the morning just in time for breakfast. Anyway, so where are we? Have we had thank you again from Free Sovereign. Thank you for confirming about the energy from the heart. My hand temperature at present does not change. Can Frank confirm the counterclockwise green energy through the eyes? Is that perceived counterclockwise observation from within the body? I think we're talking
when I see that, when I'm healing someone and I'm standing outside of their body, looking into wherever the condition is, like in healing a disc, from my point of observation, I see it spinning counterclockwise And it took me years to realize what I was doing. I was actually pulling in the physical manifesting energy from Earth mind up into that condition and spinning it counterclockwise, and that means from the left to the right as it passes in front of you. A very intense spin of lime green light, and there'll be fragments of different colors and things in that too, so we don't limit it to just one frequency. And then when I feel like the disc is manifested, the etheric quality of the disc, then I reverse the flow, a flow around that of what I call the 110 energy, which is a high frequency that comes from the oversoul level down to hold the form of whatever I'm manifesting and to create and manifest that disc instantaneously. And just hold that for a little bit, and then when I back away from it, I leave those two things operating, so it goes on healing. Most of the time, people can just jump up from the massage table and lean over and touch their toes and don't feel any pain when they may have walked in literally crippled and incapacitated. And knees and things like that, I'm within the person looking down at their knee, like the person who did the left knee on, and I'm seeing a counterclockwise rotation around that knee and all the way down to the two toes, and then when I feel like that has the energy, I wrap it clockwise looking down at it, and it's like putting a cast around it which holds the form until the healing occurs. And so that's what I do. It seems to work incredibly well. Someone else may have a different visualization perception, but that's just the way I started, and I use it for everything. Questions?
Frank. A while ago, I was talking about freeing, releasing energies of the Freemasons. Quite a while ago, a long while ago. And at the time, you said, you had something to do with that. It's like part of your karma. And I thought, I wonder if he'll ever tell me about that. Is now a good time?
I could tease you by saying no.
I'm a patient man. I can wait.
All right, let's look at you and the Freemasons. Now, just open up in your self-realization to the fascination you had. I'm reading internally now. I'm being you. Looking at the fascination you had originally, very early on, with Egypt and the Nile and all the things that happened there. Then come on forward from that through your incarnations. I see, interesting. Even in the Sumerian region, do you feel yourself shifting as you reminding you of this and coming forward? So you've been around a long time, coming on into your English heritage and that area, Scotland, and when I think of you being a Freemason, I feel it. I just felt like a Mason. Did you feel that? That presence of being a builder and using the mechanical formulas. This is why it's important for you to know mechanically how things work, because this is coming down through your soul flow.
Not only that, but dog person. I just felt like I was a dog, like one of these who's that, Anubis kind of fellow, one of them. Wow, that was weird. I felt very furry. My girlfriend's dog came here today, so I maybe it's a bit of taste of that. But Anubis, yeah. Anyway,
well, judging by your picture, the fur is still expressing out of your chin too. But it slips from the top of your head. It will allow you that, since I resemble that. Well, what can I answer about your fascination with the Masons, other than you've been fascinated with spirituality for a long time, trying to figure out how it works? Is that not true?
The weird thing, when I was a kid, I used to go to synagogue, and everybody was like doing all this stuff, but I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel what I was supposed to be feeling. I didn't feel the same intent as everybody. And it was a very long time before I realized actually, there wasn't anything going on. They were just going through the motions, doing what they were supposed to be doing, but they weren't actually feeling it.
Exactly. That's what I experienced with the Catholics too. But during that time, when you would space off in there, what would come into your mind? What do you daydream about?
I don't know. Actually, one of the things that I used to do is I used to untie the knots. Inside a Bible you have a bookmark that is usually just a piece of ribbon. And people, during the sermons and things, would tie up the ribbons into lots of knots. And so when I sat there, what I did while the guy was talking was to untie the knots very carefully, very patiently, because I knew I had plenty of time. So I just used to untie the knots in the books. I know that's a kind of weird hobby, but there was nothing else to do. So, and it was kind of, I like a little puzzle. I like to be able to, I like getting into boxes, yeah, certainly.
Well, look at the symbology there. If the ribbon represented the flow of truth, and people's convictions created the knots in the truth that distracted from its pure and perfect form, your inclination would be to seek that pure and perfect truth in life.
To restore the pure and perfect form, indeed, and it gave me great pleasure to get the ribbon back straight. Incredible! Mm-hmm. I mean, that was my spiritual moment. Actually, now I come to think about it, it's when I got that nice long blue stripe, because it's a lovely blue as well, and it looked terrible when it was all knotted. But the blue ribbon has its slightly shiny qualities.
Maybe you were Alexander the Great and you were reliving the undoing of the Gordian knot?
Watch out for that, good. Watch out for Gordy. Or a hairball.
Do we have any more requests for healing?
Thank you, Frank, by the way.
I would appreciate some help with my swollen ankles. They seem to swell up every day lately.
Are you watching your water retention in your body? And this would be kidney slow down, or the heart slowing down and not pumping enough to do the clearing of the, so it settles down into your legs. I would recommend, have you looked at taking any kind of a diuretic?
Not yet.
Do so before you stretch the tissues in your ankles and your lower leg, and it becomes habituated to being stretched and holding more water. And look at wearing compression stockings also to keep it from getting down there in the first place. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Diane apparently swallowed a hairball. Would you like us to work with that, Diane?
Yes, please.
Teresa, eat celery. Celery is always good for water retention.
Okay.
And it tastes good too, and it's crunchy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting flow tonight. Feel the energy, the universal energy flow. There's a heightened expectation looking toward the world consciousness. Something shifting, and we're coming into a new reality. I think something shifting in the financial world. It's releasing a lot of stress. And I know we've worked on this in the Earthmind think tank group in our Saturday and Wednesday meditations. And it feels like something that is actually shifting as we speak, creating a new reality. So let us look forward in anticipation of a clearing of the stagnation in the world financial system, the insecurity of the world not knowing what to expect as we transition from the fiat currency into gold-backed currencies around the world. And we look toward the stabilization of everything coming into balance and harmony and dominion. We can't express the word dominion enough. We need to get that out into the consciousness so people understand what's happening. They know what domination is because they've been suffering that for thousands of years. But what they were never taught was the fact that dominion is a natural order and state of evolving humanity into higher consciousness, just like it says in the first pages of the Bible. And man shall have dominion over the creatures of the field and the creatures of the sea and the plants and the birds and everything else. And that doesn't mean domination. That means dominion, caring for and nurturing all of the things of life on earth as God-given, God-directed beings to enhance and empower our evolution of consciousness, not only in ourselves, but maintaining the structure of life force within all creatures of earth that we're responsible for. Dominion means responsibility, not the opportunity to dominate it, as had been programmed in the past. And I know when the Queen of England would issue an estate to someone, she would say they have dominion over it. Well, that was not true dominion that they were expressing. It was domination, so they could limit and control everyone else in that estate or whatever it was. So we have to shift that consciousness and bring into the new reality that we're all created equally, that we're all here for a purpose, we're all here to learn and evolve and grow. And the more attention and focus we can put on ourselves in doing this, the more the resonance will reach out through the group mind conscious of the world and stimulate right choice, right thinking, which will allow all of consciousness, human consciousness, to evolve, to all be in a better state, and earth consciousness, humans can move into the fourth dimensional reality, that being the reality where we have access to all of our DNA potentials and the gifts and abilities that are ours inherently by divine right that have been denied to us for the last 26,000 years. But the end of the age is bringing the new age, and it's up to us to create it through our choices, our awareness, our intent. Let's create a new world reality. And so it is.
So it is.
Okay, JP. Thank you. Good night.
Good night, JP.
Everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Beautiful night.
Ah